For me, that was part of my comments today because you said I tweeted today. The question is, the fundamental question to ask today is to ask, are we truly democratic? Unexamined life is not worth living. You must at any step try to examine what you are doing. After 25 years of experimenting and trying to be a democratic country, it is now time to ask questions. Are we truly democratic? And you start by defining what it's supposed to be. Democracy is supposed to be government of the people, by the people, for the people. So the fundamental question is this government of the people? Is it by the people? And is it for the people? Beneath this is supposed to be a benefit for the people, which is not there today. Absence of which have led to leadership failure over the years. Have brought massive corruption, hunger, sufferings, all of pain, insecurity, everything. So the opposite is what we've experienced. What we should actually be celebrating is a sort of state capture, where those who have captured it have cornered all the benefits that are meant for the people. All the people are supposed to see in terms of good education, good health, and pulling them out of poverty have been cornered by the few that have captured the system. And they continue at the suffering and the expense of all. And the list is endless. You can go there and see the measure of democracy. We are 4.23, which shows we're low. You look at the hunger index, we're 109 over 124 countries measured, which shows we're low. You look at corruption index, we're 145 over 180 countries, which shows we're low. You look at law and order, which is supposed to be an intangible asset that drives democracy. We're very low. We're 120 over countries measured. So you could see we're low in every facet. If you compare even the electoral process that brings our leaders into office, again, we're very low. Let's just take the recent 3 elections in comparable countries of South Africa, India, Mexico. In all these 3 countries, first is that over 60% of registered voters participated in voting. Polling booths opened, over 80% opened on time and closed on time without incidents, no ballot snatching, no this and everything. And results were transmitted electronically without any hitches, no glitches, nothing.
Well, there was a slight hitch in the South African transmission, but not to the degree.
No, it didn't affect the result because every party accepted it. It was a very minor thing. I watched it sitting down in my own sitting room from beginning to the end. India, that was supposed to have over, the people that voted in India are 3 times the Nigerian population. Yet you could see it. The election was accepted. In our own case, less than 25% of the voters participated.
And indeed, those who came out, many of them were prevented from
Thank you. At the polling booths, did not open on time, closed late, closed early, with all sorts of fraud and everything. And when you think about it, in these countries that I mentioned, these were carried out by ordinary citizens. In our own case, despite all this fraud, glitches, everything, it was being executed by professors. So there must be something we need to re-examine and ask ourselves question, How do we get it right? For our children, for the future generation, we can't continue on this path.
So how do we get it right?
By doing it right. The government can't stamp and say, I recall late President Yaradua, who's admitted that the process that brought him to office is faulty. And he was bent on changing it and putting the right steps to do that.
So do you think
which was followed up by Jonathan,
right,
and participated in an election where for the first time the ruling party and the president lost the election. Just like you can see in the way I've just told you, the ANC in South Africa had a reduced position. In India, the same thing happened. They accepted it. Institutions must be respected by those in office. They must make sure for the future of the society, for the future of our children, a leader or those who are in leadership must do things right. Charles, I don't like discussing this today. No matter where you start, if you mean well, you can start correcting them. The role of a leader is not to remind people of the past or mention the past or think about the past. Your role is to show the path by doing things that are right. Change starts from you. By you, if you decide to walk the right path, that's how it starts. You can decide, okay, yesterday it was wrong. That's even part of why we hired you. Because it was wrong yesterday, we didn't hire you to remind us or start giving us the excuse, but to show the solution and how best to do it. That is the leadership. We're actually working in the wrong direction,
right.
Very wrong direction. And we need to change it and work in the right direction. And it has to start from the number one person. Well, you know, I've never made comment about 1 year in office. The reason why is simple. I would say that President Tinubu have kept his campaign promises. Throughout the campaign, he consistently maintained that he will continue from where Buhari stopped. And that is done very well. I would say excellent. I'll give him excellent password. And it's very simple. Dollar was 460, it's now 1,005. Fuel was 238, it's now about 700. Diesel was 844, it's now 1,415. A bag of rice is 35,000, is now about 80. A bag of beans was similar, 35, is now about 90. Gari was 27.28, is now 49.50. A tuber of yam was about 2,007 to 3,000, now is over 10,000. Tomato basket is about 40,000, that is over 150,000. Electricity is 66 kilowatts, is now over 200. You can go on and on. Our debts, even bread, which is a basic thing other countries are subsidizing, like Egypt. Bread, smaller, medium bread was 450 naira. It's now 900 naira. The big one is 900, it's 1,005. Our debt, like I mentioned, was 87. By end of last year, it was actually 97. The highest we've done within that short period. Now it's over 100 trillion. In fact, this year alone, the government, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, have issued and taken from the system borrowing of over 16 trillion naira. You can imagine the interest at almost 20%. It's about 3.2 trillion after 12 months. At that, last year, in a period of 9 months, we spent about 5.7 trillion servicing as debt interest on our payments. So add that. So overall, it's done well. Let's even go back to the overall of the economy. By the time he took over last year, we were still the biggest economy in Africa with $477 billion as our GDP, followed by South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, and Morocco. Today, we are number 4. South Africa is number 1 now. Think about $373 billion. Egypt is second, $347 billion, followed by Algeria, 266. And we are now 252 billion GDP economy. It's even worse when you go to our per capita. We are actually 1/4 of per capita of the list of these nations that I mentioned. South Africa is over 6,000 per capita. Egypt is 4,000 plus. So is Algeria. And then Morocco, which among this is supposed to be the 5th, at 4,210, and we are 1,000 plus. So we actually gone low. We're coming from a low of per capita of 3,000 plus in 2014. So with every other thing have headed south. You see, insecurity is worsened.
Well,
corruption has worsened.
Let's
adherence to the rule of law has worsened. The country has been nepotism is at the highest. Charles, the first thing you do as a leader who inherited a difficult situation is to lead by example, and it starts by your own style, by your behavior, your conduct, how you manage the resources. You cannot say that things are difficult when you're living in conspicuous consumption. The things you don't do. Nigeria today is a country with the highest amount of people without homes. Over 24 million. Yet, you're spending 20-something billion to build a house for one person. I just said that a vice president of Nigeria cannot live in a 4-bedroom house. You live in the UK. 10 Downing Street is 3 rooms. That is an economy that is almost 10 times our economy today. And the Prime Minister lives in 3 rooms. So that's where you start. You start by living like somebody who is coming through difficulty, who is facing difficulty, who wants to change things. That's how we do it. You don't engage in what we've been doing, buying vehicles, partying and everything as if things are normal. When you say there's difficulty, you need to deal with the issue of cutting the cost of governance. That's where you start. So you need to deal with the issue of massive corruption. That is showing that I am now, okay, things are bad. That I've served the system. Where I came in and found that things are bad, and we start by cutting the cost of governance. It is not enough to say, oh, we're going to go through problem. If we're going to go through problem, chances is very simple. You enter a plane. There's a bad weather. There's going to be a turbulence. The pilot says, we're going to go through bad weather. It's going to take us maybe 1 hour, 2 hours because of this. And you follow the truth. That is not the time. In that bad weather, everybody, even the crew, are asked to sit down. That's not time to start serving food and wine and everything when everything is up and down. That's why we're there. We're in turbulence and people are still dancing and everything. I always say what happened to the Titanic is what is happening there today. While the plane was going on, the people on the upper deck were busy dancing until the whole thing collapsed. That's what is happening now. We should change and do things right. We can change and manage corruption and everything in order. Charles, I don't know. It's only the public that will know.
Yeah, but you interact with them.
Mine is to continue interacting and being part of the process of building a new Nigeria that is possible. Because we can't go on this way. We're headed to a disaster. We must do things rightly. Like I always said, I'm not desperate to be president. I'm desperate to see Nigeria work. And work for the poor people of Nigeria.
Right.
The system has been very uncaring for the people of Nigeria. And we must fix it. Work where we have to remove this criminalized system, corruption that we the politicians have unleashed on the country and make it better. Well, quite frankly, I will not make a comment on that. Wole Soyinka is the father. I have a policy. I don't respond when my father talks.
Yeah, but he's delivered a
I leave
punch.
it to them, because when I became their age, I want those younger ones to respect me, though I will also try to put myself in a position that I will respect myself before that.
Well, he's delivered.
But I assure you,
Right.
one of the things he made is that he talked about the obedience.
Yeah.
Me inciting them. Charles, I will never, knowingly, and I have never, knowingly or unknowingly, asked any of the obedient or the young people to say anything against an elder, a priest, a pastor, an imam, and everything. Never. It will never happen.
Nevertheless,
Never will happen. And I don't make comments when they make comments.
Right.
It is left for Nigerians to know whether I'm fit or not. I've been a successful businessman in the private sector. I've been in the corporate world and can say I'm one of the most successful. I've also served the state where I still challenge all those who have served. Let's put our records side by side and let me know. And when I served, the only measure of development was Millennium Development Goals, which I started 7 years after. When it ended, I was number 1. No human being on earth that I know today have controlled online
trolls.
Nobody. Go and see what they write about me. It's even worse than what they write about him. Go and read it. You can Google it. You can see it.
Well,
It's
I
there.
have seen it.
Yes. So if they do that against me, how do I now control? Who do I know that is doing that? It could actually be those who are his friends who claim that they are obedience, doing it in order to make him make such statements. But like I said, he remains a revered father.
Okay.
And I respect him, and I keep respecting
Right.
him. It's just personal to him. And like I said, Charles, all these things that happen, I don't want to make comment about them, because what we are talking now is the present position. Is Gary cheaper?
Yeah, but those
It's
kinds of
cheaper of you,
comments
cheaper,
are
no.
damaging to you.
No.
He's saying those things that
if it will make Gary,
was your
if you make
director
Gary
general.
or Yam cheaper, fine with me.
Right.
If it's going to help in managing the whole corruption we're passing through, fine with me. Let's deal with the issues of the president. Whenever people are talking, this person said, Charles, I don't do politics of he said, she said. No. Let's deal with the issues. We have a problem. We have a big problem. Look at what FAO has said, that those who are going to be hungry in Nigeria have increased from 24 million to 37 million. We have young people, look at what UNICEF released the other day. So we have bad results all over the place. That's what we should focus, not whether Peter Obi is fit or not. Charles, I'm fit to be a president of Nigeria. I'm competent. I can tell you that put me line with the other people who are competing in terms of education, in terms of fitness, in terms of background. I can stand tall against them.
Well, you talked about the states, so let me bring one more issue about these sort of personal things before we move on. Let's look at another person who's taken aim at you, and that's the special advisor to the governor of Anambra State, Dr. Alex Obiobolu. You, of course, governed Anambra State for 8 years, and he says that in 2 years of Charles Soludo as governor, Mr. Soludo has achieved more than your 8 years in office. In other words, 2 years of Soludo is better than 8 years will be. What's your response?
Well, again, Charles, I don't like talking about issues like this. But because you mentioned it, let me tell you, Charles, let people go and look at my electoral promises to the people of Anambra State. Education, health, pulling people out of poverty, making sure they have access to rural areas. And I can tell you, they were the measures of MDG, and I was number one. I was number one in education. I was there in health. I was there in pulling people. Go and ask those who ran Office of Poverty Alleviation, like Professor Dr. Mackle, and everything. Go ask Samsudin. I was number one. What I promised, I delivered.
I have to be fair. I saw that the evidence of that online.
Thank you.
In terms of those I think the European Union and all the rest.
Everybody.
So
I get that.
And above all, was number one.
Finished it and was able to even left a savings, subnational savings, for the first time in Nigeria, for future generation. Nobody had ever done it. What I promised, I delivered. My brother, my senior brother, Soludo, promised to buy Taiwan. So, until Anambra becomes that, because you must stick to what you promised. But Anambra is now to buy Taiwan. He has achieved his purpose. I didn't promise that. What I promised, I delivered. And that's what I'm thinking about, what I'm talking. When I was talking about being president, I was saying things that is deliverable. That I'm going to do this in the north. We're going to make sure we'll go to the north and turn around the uncultivated land, do this. I wasn't really had what I wanted to do, and I would have started from day one and show the direction. That's how it works. Well, I'll start with the politicians. It is time for us to have a rethink and think about the poor people of this country. There's so many things that are going wrong. The poor people are suffering. We must now refocus and deal with issues that concern them. There's so many issues that concern poor people which we don't address. I was talking to somebody already about Heritage Bank issue. How dare you allow a situation at this critical time, so many poor people with their little savings have put it in a bank where I'm sure whatever caused them to collapse is came from the elites and possibly the top politicians. And you allow them to lose their savings. They even allow some big people and some big institutions to be able to get their money back and then allow poor people. I know a man whose entire life saving of 80 million is in that bank. He's worked all his life, he's late, his family depends on interest on that money. I know those who put money in community banks, microcredit banks, and all sorts of saving institutions, who in turn put it in microcredit heritage bank, and you allow it to collapse. They don't even know where to go to. I live in the village and they're running all over the place, crying. When would this country start caring for the poor? That is the problem we have here. And we must deal with it. When you see this massive corruption going on, if it's not budget padding today, it is undisclosed subsidy payments, it is inflated contracts, and all sorts of things, which we should. So these are issues we need to deal with. These are issues I even want our agencies like EFCC to start dealing with. Not arresting Bobrisky and Obi Kubana, or whatever, Kubana's big chief priest. These are minor issues. We have things that are going wrong. Our speaker, through one of his aides, in April, said we are losing 300 barrels of crude every day. People like Tony Elumelu have said we are losing over 50% of our production. But let's speak at that was specific. 300 barrels a day, charts times 75, which is the minimum you can get today, is $22,500,000. At the rate of 1,005, it's 33,750,000,000 naira every day. Times it with 1 month is $1,012.5 billion naira, which is about what the 3 tiers of government share every month. That's where I want our agencies who are pursuing people who are corrupt to be. Budget padding in all this area, that's where they should be. Facing it squarely, not arresting Bobrisky because he dressed like a woman and spread about maybe 500 naira. I can assure you that if you call Nigerians today and say, hey, we are going to feed only women in this hunger time, just, I don't know, all men will dress like women and go and collect the food because we're all hungry. We will even have to dress Bobrisky. He wouldn't even know what is in dressing like a woman. It's very easy. The wigs are sold in the market and everything. Everybody will turn into. So these are things we need to fix.
Right.